The tension inside the courtroom was so thick it felt like the very air was pushing down on everyone's chest. Cameras snapped in rapid bursts from the press row, capturing every flicker, every twitch on Diddy's face. He walked and draped in a dark tailored suit that screamed wealth and power, diamond cufflinks flashing under the harsh lights. His chin was high, his stride deliberate, like he was reminding everyone exactly who he was. But what Diddy didn't realize, or maybe what he refused to believe, was that none of it mattered today. The swagger wasn't going to shield him this time. The judge sat perched at the bench, eyes fixed on Diddy, tapping a pen against the desk with a slow, calculated rhythm. It wasn't just a tap, it was a warning shot. The gallery murmured behind cupped hands, voices laced with nerves and disbelief. Every cough, every shuffle, every breath in that room seemed amplified. Diddy's lawyer leaned in, whispering into his ear, but Diddy's eyes never broke from the judge. It was a silent showdown, a standoff heavy enough to explode at any second. Before we go deeper into this intense moment, make sure to smash the like button, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss updates just like this one. Now, let's get straight back to it. The judge leaned forward slightly, his voice calm but edged with steel sharp enough to cut through bone. "Mr. Combs," he began, "this is not a stage. This is not a performance. And it has nothing to do with what you own or what you're worth." The words didn't just hang. They froze the air itself. For the first time, a crack of unease flickered across Diddy's face. A flashbulb went off in the back row, immortalizing that exact moment, the instant when a powerful man's armor fractured. And just like that, the balance in the room shifted. This was no longer Diddy's space. His fame, his money, his influence, none of it dictated the terms here anymore. The judge's eyes stayed locked, unblinking, never wavering. The crowd leaned forward instinctively, every person sensing something monumental was about to unfold, something that would peel back the last illusion of invincibility Diddy had left. The prosecutor rose, clutching a stack of papers so thick it looked heavy enough to crack the table. No pleasantries, no wasted breath. His tone was sharp, precise, every word like a bullet. "Your Honor," he started. "This is not just a man accused of breaking the law. This is a man who built an entire shield out of money, out of fame, out of influence, just to protect himself from accountability." His shoes echoed against the marble floor as he paced, each step ratcheting the tension even higher. When he flipped through the files, the sound of the pages slicing the silence was deafening. He laid it out raw, lavish penthouse parties where entertainment blurred into illegality, hush money funneled into silence, witnesses too terrified to speak Diddy's name aloud. Each accusation landed like a stone hurled into glass, shattering the illusion piece by piece. The judge didn't move, didn't blink, his gaze locked only on Diddy, and with every word, the courtroom seemed to shrink tighter around him. "For years," the prosecutor pressed on, "this man has treated the justice system like a business deal. When a problem came up, he didn't solve it with truth. He solved it with money. And that ends today." The words hit like a gavel slam, and the gallery erupted in a wave of whispers. Diddy's lawyer shifted in his seat, his jaw clenching as he scribbled across a yellow notepad. But Diddy himself? He leaned back in his chair, his expression frozen, unreadable. A mask. But beneath that stillness, there was a twitch in his jaw, a grip tightening on the edge of the table, small cracks beginning to show. And while all this unfolded inside, outside the courthouse reporters were already pushing live updates, sending the story rippling out to the world in real time. The headlines were practically writing themselves. Prosecutor shreds Diddy. Judge sits in silence. Money shield cracking. But inside these walls, it wasn't about headlines. It was about watching a man who thought he could never be cornered slowly feel the space around him closing in. Each word, each shred of evidence, pulled the rope tighter. And everyone in that room could feel it, like waiting for the snap of a cord stretched too far. Diddy's lawyer finally stood, tugging his tie like a soldier gearing up for battle. He stepped forward with a slow, measured confidence, his voice calm but laced with urgency. "Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen, we are not here to put a man's lifestyle on trial. We are here for facts, not rumors. Law, not headlines." His hand gestured toward Diddy, who sat stiff, eyes locked on the bench. This man built his career from the ground up. His created jobs, lifted communities, And yes, he's reaped the rewards of that success. But that, Your Honor, is not a crime. Piece by piece, he began chipping away at the prosecution's case. Lavish parties, legal, license, regulated, alleged hush payments, settlements, standard legal agreements signed by both sides. He made it sound smooth, confident, but underneath there was a sharp edge of desperation, like a man patching leaks on a sinking ship. Meanwhile, Diddy didn't move. His hands stayed clasped, his face frozen. But every so often, his eyes drifted to the gallery, to the journalists scribbling down every line, to the small cluster of supporters in his merchandise, nodding for his sake. Their bodies projected strength. Their eyes betrayed fear. The lawyer edged closer to the bench, his tone dropping low, almost intimate. Your Honor, I know the public has its opinions. I know the media thrives on scandal. But this courtroom cannot bend to noise. This is a place of justice, not theater. His words landed like a challenge, daring anyone to disagree. But across the bench, the judge's expression never shifted. No nod, no frown, just eyes drilling into Diddy, as if measuring not the speech, but the man. That silence grew heavy. It became obvious this wasn't going to be decided by clever arguments or rehearsed lines. The judge wasn't buying Polish. His patience was thinning. The anticipation in the air made every breath feel weighted. Slowly, he leaned back, folding his hands, stretching the quiet just long enough for the room to shift uncomfortably. Then, calm but razor-sharp, his voice cut through. Mr. Combs, I have some questions for you directly. All eyes snapped to Diddy. His lawyer leaned in instinctively, but before he could speak, the judge cut him off. No, counsel, I want to hear from your client. The words cracked like thunder. Diddy adjusted his tie, cleared his throat, gave a small nod, masking the storm inside. Do you believe, the judge asked, deliberate and slow, that your status, your fame, your fortune grant you freedoms other people do not have? The dot hit its target. Diddy paused a beat too long before answering. No, Your Honor, I respect the law like any other citizen. His voice was even, but his eyes tightened, betraying the strain beneath the composure. The judge didn't flinch, didn't move, just stayed, unblinking, as though scanning the words for cracks. Because what I'm hearing, he continued, from witness after witness, from document after document, is a pattern where problems didn't get solved with truth. They disappeared with money. The final two words dropped like boulders into the silence. With money. The gallery rippled. A sharp breath cut the air. Pens scratched frantically. Laptops clattered. Reporters racing to capture the line already destined for headlines. Judge calls out Diddy's money shield. Diddy's jaw flexed. His eyes hardened. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The silence spoke louder than any defense. The air was heavy, charged with something unspoken, a challenge between the bench and the man in the defendant's chair. And everyone watching felt it. This wasn't just a trial anymore. This was personal. The judge wasn't staring at a case file or a stack of legal papers. He was staring at a man he believed had spent years bending the system until it broke. The silence stretched on, thick, suffocating, like a storm cloud about to split open. And when it did, it wouldn't be rain that poured down. It would be judgment. The prosecutor stepped forward again, sharper now, feeding off attention. A thick folder in his hand snapped open. The first page turned outward for the court to see. Let's talk about these transactions, Mr. Combs. His voice rang, cutting through the silence. Payments. Large ones. Made at very convenient times. Times when witnesses suddenly changed their stories. Times when lawsuits just vanished. He paced toward the bench, every step deliberate, almost theatrical. These aren't charitable donations. These are hush payments. Plain and simple. A ripple swept through the gallery. People leaned forward, eyes fixed on Diddy. He shifted, crossing his arms like a man trying to project control. He didn't turn toward the prosecutor. His eyes locked on the judge, daring, defiant. But his lips pressed tight told a different story. The prosecutor pressed on, his voice unrelenting as he recited the numbers. Dates, names. Some blacked out, others read aloud for everyone to hear. 200,000 here. 400,000 there. Over 1 million in just 1 year. And every single one lined up with a sudden disappearance of damning testimony. That's not coincidence, Your Honor. That's strategy. That's power burying the truth. The room fell silent. The judge's pen stopped. His jaw tightened. The gavel sat inches away. The prosecutor leaned into the moment. This isn't the tale of a man who made mistakes. This is a story of a man who treats justice like a receipt. Where the law isn't truth, it's a transaction. Something to buy, something to negotiate if you've got the bank account. He moved closer to the defense table, eyes narrowing. But what happens when the price tag is too high? What happens when no amount of money can buy the one thing you're trying hardest to escape? For a second, the only sound was the soft hum of the vents. Diddy sat still, staring forward, his body calm but his posture changed. Less swagger, more calculation. As though, for the first time, he realized this might be the one room in the world where money, power, and fame meant nothing. The tension was unbearable, pressing on every chest in the room. Something sharp, final, irreversible was coming. The only question, how much longer would the judge wait before unleashing it? The judge leaned forward, resting both elbows on the bench, eyes drilling straight into Diddy. The walls seemed to close in, every sound in the courtroom swallowed by the moment. Mr. Combs, he began, his voice slow, deliberate. You've heard the evidence. You've listened to the accusations. And yet, you sit there as if none of this truly touches you. Diddy's lawyer started to rise, but the judge's hand cut the air like a blade. No, counsel, not you. I want to hear from him. I want to hear from a man at the center of all this. His tone was calm, but there was steel underneath, something sharp, waiting. Diddy's eyes narrowed, his chin lifted. Your Honor, he began, voice steady. I understand the seriousness of these proceedings, but I am not the man the prosecution paints me as. I've worked for everything I have. I've built. I've helped people. The judge sliced him with a shake of his head. This isn't about how hard you've worked. This isn't about who you've helped or what you've given away. This is about one thing, whether you believe the rules apply to you the same way they apply to every other soul in this room. The words cracked through the silence like the pause before lightning. The gallery froze, every eye locked on the unspoken duel between judge and defendant. The pressure was suffocating. Diddy didn't flinch, but his expression shifted just enough to betray the weight pressing in. The judge leaned back slightly, his tone lowering, precise as a blade. I've seen men with nothing show more respect for the law than men with millions in their pockets. And I've seen men lose everything because they thought money made them untouchable. His eyes sharpened, cutting into Diddy's composure. Tell me, Mr. Combs, what kind of man are you? For a long moment, silence swallowed the room. You could hear the tick of the courtroom clock, the faint buzz of cameras zooming in, capturing every twitch, every breath. It was raw, charged. Even those who came for spectacle now sat frozen, realizing they were watching something far deeper, something personal. This wasn't just a judge questioning a defendant. It was a reckoning forming in real time. The storm was at the edge. The judge's hand hovered over the gavel, but he didn't strike. Instead, he leaned forward, closer, closing the gap, his eyes locked on Diddy like iron. I'm going to say this once. The judge's voice dropped low, deadly calm, chilling the room. And I want you to understand exactly what I mean. The silence dragged until it became unbearable, the kind that makes your pulse spike because you know what's coming next can't be undone. Then, crack, the gavel slammed down, the sound exploding like a gunshot through the chamber. Your money means nothing here. The words tore through the air, ripping apart whatever illusion of control Diddy had left. Gasps erupted. A few in the gallery even flinched, as if the judge's voice had struck them directly. Diddy froze. The mask he'd worn so carefully through the trial slipped. For the first time, his confidence cracked. And there it was, the look of a man who realized, too late, that his power had limits. His eyes darted, scanning the room for something to hold on to. But there was nothing. The judge's voice thundered again. Do you think you can buy your way out of every mistake? That the law bends for the highest bidder? Not here. Not in my courtroom. I don't care how many records you've sold, how many awards you've collected. what you've built, who you've silenced. None of it matters. In this room, you are just another man answering for his actions. The tone was so sharp, so commanding, that even the officers straightened to their posts. Diddy's lawyer whispered urgently to him, but Diddy didn't respond. His eyes dropped to the table, his fingers tapping lightly, his last show of control slipping with every beat. Outside these walls, his name carried weight, but in here, it was stripped bare, reduced to ink on a file. The balance of power had flipped. For the first time since this trial began, it was undeniable. Diddy wasn't in control anymore. The judge was, and the final act was about to begin. The judge leaned back, flipping through a stack of papers slowly, deliberately. Each turn of a page dragged the silence tighter, pressing down on every soul in the room. Finally, he spoke. "Mr. Combs, I have considered every piece of evidence. I have listened to every argument, and I have weighed your actions against the law, the same law that does not bend for wealth, for fame, or for legacy." Diddy stayed motionless. His lawyer braced, but Diddy himself didn't look up. It was as if he already knew. You've had every opportunity to show accountability, to show remorse, and yet all I've seen is a man more concerned with protecting his image than owning his actions. The gallery was silent. Even the reporters, fingers frozen above keyboards, didn't move. They knew this was it. The judge placed the papers down. His voice cut like steel. "Therefore, this court sentences you to serve your time in accordance with the law, without privilege, without special treatment. You will face the same consequences as any other citizen who stood in your place." Crack! Crack! The gavel fell again. Each strike nailed shut the coffin of Diddy's last hope. Gasps tore through the room. Some stared wide-eyed. Others shook their heads, struggling to process the fall of a man once thought untouchable. The officers moved in, silent, decisive. Diddy rose slowly, heavy now, each motion stripped of swagger. The man who had walked an untouchable, larger than life, left smaller, not broken, but undeniably diminished. His eyes flickered toward the back doors, the way to freedom. But that path was gone. The only way forward was the guarded doors at the side, the ones that led somewhere very different. The judge didn't look up. He was already on to the next name, the next case. To him, Diddy wasn't a mogul or an icon. He was just another man judged, sentenced, and sent to pay his debt. And when those heavy wooden doors closed behind him, the sound was final, absolute. A reminder that in this room, no fame, no fortune, no legacy can rewrite the ending.